Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you have the clerk report House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 127?
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 127.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Move for passage.
Motion is for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Jefferson.
There's always one in the crowd, isn't it? Mr. Speaker, I want to compliment you and the President of the Senate that took a holistic view in assessing mental health wellness issues by establishing a severe mental health task force this past year, which was led by my dear friend, the gentleman from Greenup County. One of the recommendations from the task force was addressing some changes to Tim's Law, which we passed several years ago. If y'all recall, and if those who weren't here back then, the Tim's Law authorizes the state district courts to order assisted outpatient treatment, or called AOT, for individuals who have been diagnosed with severe mental illness and are unlikely to seek treatment on a voluntary basis. This law created a partnership between the patient and the mental health system that aims to increase medication adherence in order to reduce hospitalizations and incarcerations while getting these individuals back on the road, thereby avoiding prison, self-harm, and endangering others. This House bill that's been substituted by House Committee Bill 1 first rectifies an inadvertent drafting error in 2017 version, which the bill used the terms examination and evaluation interchangeably, thereby creating ambiguities which make the law vulnerable to review the higher courts on due process grounds. By definition, the word evaluation of the patient is a clinical assessment performed by the medical professional, while the term examination references taking a testimony by a party who is under oath. When I mentioned about the examination, there's a process to make sure that the patient fits the criteria of severe mental illness and making sure that they fit this particular program. In addition, this original version of the statute failed to detail timing mechanisms when the start clocks and how to calculate time on time-sensitive components of report, as well as setting hearings. In its current form, the statute language creates a scenario that would allow critical evidence in a proceeding to be filed days after the hearing. Second, it eliminates the requirement of prior hospitalizations were involuntary, as this is an arbitrary distinction. Many patients brought to the hospital in crisis are often agreeable or persuaded to admit themselves, and should eliminate them from the AOT eligibility. Remember, AOT means that it reduces the hospitalization and arrest or going to prison, while the current statute doesn't look at those factors. Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize one individual in addition. That's the Jefferson County District Court, Stephanie Burke, who's been a pioneer in implementing Tim's Law. Through her professionalism, compassion, and intellect are beyond reproach, and I wish to thank her and for her service in helping the most vulnerable. With that, Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I'd like to move for passage of House Bill 127 with House Committee Substitute 1.
Question for the body is passage of House Bill 127 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Greenup for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chair of the Task Force on Severe Mental Health, this is one of the greatest things we've done in a long time in Kentucky. Let me tell you my personal experience. I had a gentleman walk in front of my pharmacy one day, and he was wearing a severe heavy coat in August. He didn't have his money for his schizophrenia, his medicine, so I gave it to him. But a month later, he was living in a hotel, and the hotel burnt because he didn't have his medicine. We have a responsibility to these people to realize that mental health is a disease, and it affects every one of our families in this state. So I want to commend the task force. I want to commend everyone that has worked on this bill and know that Tim Morton was a real person. He walked the streets of Lexington, and he needed a second chance. So now we're giving other people that road to recovery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.